The causes of the American Revolution. The French and Indian War was resolved by the Treaty of Paris. This treaty gave Britain a lot more land. It had been a side effect of pulling them farther into debt. The new ownership of land angered the Native Americans, which led to Pontiac's Rebellion. To protect the colonies from further Native aggression, King George III established the Proclamation Line of 1763. This line prevented colonists from settling west of the Appalachian Mountains. The Proclamation Line marked the end of salvatory neglect. This led to strict Navigation Act, the Currency Act, the Sugar Act, and the Quartering Act. The Stamp Act was also passed. These acts were established as an attempt to pay back the debt Britain had accumulated from the French and Indian War. The Stamp Act taxed paper goods. If something required a stamp, it was taxed. These taxes funded the military stationed in the colonies. This angered the colonists because they were paying for outside troops to enforce laws they didn't like. Colonists tarred and feathered stamp collectors and burned down stamp collectors' houses. The Stamp Act Congress approved Patrick Henry's Virginia Resolves. These resolves initiated a boycott of British goods and encouraged internal taxation. The Stamp Act Congress was the first unified resistance against the Crown. The Stamp Act was repealed by the Declaratory Act. Soon after the repeal of the Stamp Act, the Crown passed the Townshend Act, which taxed glass, lead, paint, silk, and tea. This tax paid for the salaries of royal governors. In the Letters of a Pennsylvania Farmer, John Dickinson argued against external tax and for internal taxes. The Massachusetts circulatory letters resonated a boycott of British goods.
The frustrations of the colonists led to many protests, one of which consisted of throwing snowballs at redcoats stationed in Boston. The redcoats opened fire and killed 5 people. Paul Revere published a propaganda cartoon depicting the event that ignited patriotism. The committees of correspondence, led by Samuel Adams, reminded the colonists to expect the worst even after the repeal of the Townshend Acts. Because of the paranoia this caused, when Britain passed the Tea Act, colonists suspected a hidden agenda. The Sons of Liberty, dressed as Indians, climbed aboard a British trade ship at night and dumped barrels of tea into Boston Harbor. This became known as the Boston Tea Party. This act of rebellion pushed Britain to pass the Coercive Acts, also known as the Intolerable Acts. These acts closed Boston Harbor, rescinded the Charter of Massachusetts, deprived colonists of the right of trial by jury of their peers, and reinforced the Quartering Act. The Quebec Act prevented colonists from moving or settling further north, so they were trapped. The First Continental Congress involved representatives from all 13 colonies. They passed the Suffolk Resolves, which denounced the Intolerable Acts, suggested the formation of a colonial defensive militia, and declared a boycott of British goods and taxes. They also passed the Declaration of Rights and Grievances, which was intended for the king. It stated their rights as British citizens and how they were being deprived of those rights. The king did not respond, because a response would have given the rebels legitimacy. King George III sent redcoats at night to Lexington and Concord to attack the colonial militia and ransack their weapon and gunpowder stores. Paul Revere warned the colonists, but it was too late to win at Lexington. The battle at Lexington became famous for the shot heard round the world. However, the troops regrouped and pulled out a victory at Concord. In Common Sense, a document written by Thomas Paine, he challenged the king's divine right to rule and promoted an independent republic. This pushed many colonists to become patriots and encouraged patriotic spirit as a whole. The Declaration of Independence, written by Thomas Jefferson and signed by the Second Continental Congress, had 3 parts. It stated that all men were created equal, described their disagreements with Britain, and declared that the colonies were now their own independent state.